everybody. Welcome back once again. We have made it, ladies and gentlemen. The NBA playoffs are right on the horizon. We made it. I'm your host, Adam Rothschild. Alongside me is my co-host, Marquise Frias. Join me once again as per usual every single week. And today's episode of Empire State Hoops is powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. The playoffs. We made it. The play-in tournament is currently going on as well. Some playoff matchups are currently set. We're still waiting on the 1 and 8 seed. Those play-in games will be tomorrow night. It'll be the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat for the winner to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are waiting on either the Memphis Grizzlies or the Dallas Mavericks, who absolutely destroyed the Sacramento Kings.
I would say that was a really surprising game. I didn't think that the Mavericks... I actually think I did have the Mavericks taking that, but not as convincingly as they did. I was actually kind of impressed to see those matchups, and both 10-seeded teams, by the way, won those play-in matchups, and they'll get a chance for the 8 seed, which is actually kind of exciting for them. But yeah, I was not expecting that at all.
Let's also remember this, too, about the Sacramento Kings, what they did this morning, what I saw on ESPN. I'm sure you remember the days of the Knicks when we had Scott Perry as our GM.
Yeah.
And the Sacramento Kings just hired Scott Perry to replace their fired GM, who just got fired, I believe, a half hour after they lost that game.
That's actually very interesting. I actually didn't really know about it until you just told me. But it's going to be absolutely crazy in Sacramento. I think that they're another interesting team to look at now in the offseason, and just really what they've done. Like, they quite literally reconstructed their entire roster, and now they're going to have a question up in the air with Domantas Sabonis, and I think he should get out of there as if he could. But yeah, the Sacramento Kings, they're going to be an interesting team to look at this offseason.
I mean, a few years ago, we were talking about light the beam and everything, and now it might go all down. After all of that hype and build up for the Kings, it might just go down because their season ended and they didn't want it to end now.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it, the Light the Beam team, that was a very special team. That everybody thought that could have been the start of something special, but the following year they only make it to the play-in, and I believe they lose in the 9 and 10 matchup again. So back-to-back years in the play-in, not making the playoffs is obviously disappointing, so a lot of questions are going to be had for the Sacramento Kings.
And that's it for the Kings this year. Their season's over. But with the NBA playoffs, our New York Knicks are officially matched up with the number 6 seed Detroit Pistons, who we talked about in the last episode. They play them towards the end of the regular season. So now seeing what we saw out of this Pistons team, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things that need to be answered with Saturday's game coming up for Game 1 at Madison Square Garden. So let's first talk about the Knicks season. They finished 51-31. Second consecutive 50-win season. This hasn't happened since the Patrick Ewing era. So It's been quite a minute. We've been waiting for this. Their best record since the 2012-13 season when they went to the second round and lost to the Indiana Pacers with Carmelo Anthony. And the big things, of course, too, bringing in Bridges, bringing in Towns.
Yeah.
And the first time since 1975. It's been almost 50 years since the Knicks had 2 All-Stars start in the All-Star game. This year, those 2 guys, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, and those last 2 guys that did it, Walt Clyde Frazier and Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Wow. Reading that stat was absolutely insane to me. I honestly didn't know that Earl Monroe was an all-star starter, but I knew he was good back in the day with Walt Frazier. So shout out to both of those guys. Knicks legends for sure. But this Knicks team, as a bit underwhelming as it may have seemed as a season for the Knicks, this was still a very successful season for the Knicks. We didn't get it done the way we wanted to, as in with the top teams and our record against those teams. But this was still, without that, this was a great season overall. I think we started off in the summer with Mikal Bridges trade. That trade actually happened during my graduation, which was very interesting. And I was freaking out as my principal was giving his speech. And then a month before the season starts, we get Karl Anthony Towns. Nobody expected that trade. That was probably the Luka trade before the Luka trade happened. So obviously these 2 moves made the Knicks easily one of the best teams in the NBA after such a strong showing in the playoffs last season. We started off shaky, but then we saw the real potential going into, I believe, December and January. And that's when we ran into those top teams again. But I just really look at this team, and I'm very proud to call myself a fan of this team. This was a very exciting regular season for the Knicks, and a very successful one. So again, I'm very happy for this Knicks team.
Yeah, and my thoughts are pretty much the same thing. It was, I feel like, a little bit similar to last year. I mean, the team, of course, was a lot different last year. You had guys like DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, both out of the window now, and even Quentin Grimes as well was in that case with us for that period of time as well. But you have to move on from those guys in some way, and it does bring in the star talent that we've been looking for the past several years, and finally we get that, and it's built up to a team that has been incredible for the third straight year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you talk about the comparison between last year's team and this year's team, and there is a very big difference for what we're seeing from these two teams. I think firstly, last year, obviously our identity was defense behind Isaiah Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby. Those guys got it done on the defensive side. So there's no doubt that the Knicks were going to get it done on the defensive side. However, this New York Knicks team that we're seeing now, really no defense, at least compared to last year's New York Knicks team. Not as strong of a defensive team at all, and more high-powered offensively, which I don't mind. I definitely love to see us jack up 33s a game, which it could be entertaining, but when you lose that way, of course, that's not going to be too exciting. But I also chalk it down to the chemistry. Obviously, I just said the Karl-Anthony Towns trade happened a month before the season started, so obviously some chemistry involved is going to happen. But then also the personnel. We've never had as much scorers on the floor at the same time as we had this year in the New York Knicks. So it was very difficult for us to really find that chemistry. But once we found it, we really started to see the prime of the Knicks, really in that in the December to January mark. And now we're in the playoffs. So I'm hoping we could see that same Knicks team again, and really we could see the fiery spirit that we saw last year in the playoffs with the Knicks team. Hopefully that becomes relevant again in this year's playoffs.
I mean, we all want to relive all those exciting moments, not just with the Knicks, but any team in the playoffs or any just exciting moment. Knicks had a lot of those last year and looking to have that once again. Yeah. So it's going to start off against the Detroit Pistons, who, like I mentioned before, a very young and physical team, and trying to bring that bad boy era from the 80s and late 80s, early 90s with Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, and all those guys as well, and Joe Dumars, and that was a good time to be a Detroit Pistons fan. And once again, Detroit sports are back on the top of the map. I mean, the Lions talk about what they've been doing. The Pistons now, and the Detroit Tigers in the playoffs last year. So Detroit sports is back on the map. The Pistons back in the playoffs for the first time since 2019. That year they got swept by Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round of the playoffs. That Pistons team, just so you remember, Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin were the All-Stars on that team. Just so you remember.
Personally, I think this Pistons team is better than that team that got swept by the Bucks in, I believe, 2019.
Yes.
I 100% have more belief in this Pistons team than the Pistons team in 2019. However, it's the New York Knicks. I'm not going to go against my own team. Obviously, I have us taking it, but we're going to go more in depth as to why I think we're taking it. So if you want to start that off.
Yes, the first thing we got to point to, of course, for the Pistons, Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
How do you stop a guy like that? And what he's done? I mean, he's had some great performances this year for the Pistons. He's
for sure.
without a doubt, much due respect for him, of course. But for the Knicks on the defensive side of the ball, there's got to be ways to eliminate him from the things that he's good at on the floor.
Yeah, so obviously, the Pistons are going to be looking for Cade Cunningham this season or this season. I think they're going to Cade Cunningham is just going to dominate this series. It depends on how he dominates and really who else contributes. Malik Beasley is another player I look forward to with this Detroit Pistons team. He's shooting 41.3% from three, and he's averaging 9 threes in each game. That's incredible numbers for a 3-point shoot. That's a career year for Malik Beasley. So obviously that kick and drive to Malik Beasley from Cade Cunningham is going to go to a lot in this series. It's really how the Knicks defend that. I think firstly the Knicks are going to mainly have Mikal Bridges on Cade Cunningham. I feel like that makes more sense than OG Anunoby. I wouldn't mind seeing OG Anunoby on Cade Cunningham in a few possessions just because they kind of relatively match in size, but I think Cade has him in speed, but I think I like the length of Mikal Bridges better than the size of OG Anunoby. But again, it really just depends on how we can control Cade Cunningham's ability to really facilitate the ball in that offense, because he can really do it on a number of different levels. I just talked about Malik Beasley, but you also have the lob threat between Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart that can always get it done. I really am impressed as to what I've seen from Cade Cunningham so far. I think he's the front runner for most improved player. But Cade Cunningham is, of course, target number one for the New York Knicks right now.
Yeah, and another thing, too, with the Pistons, a lot of the big guys they have down low, Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren are two great examples of that. So when you have that matchup, it's going to be Towns down there in the post as well, and it's going to be OG Anunoby maybe defending as well, maybe Josh Hart, depending on what the scenario is in this case. But when you look at it from that perspective, the interior is going to be another spot to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the physicality in the last matchup against the Pistons to end off the regular season. The Pistons, no doubt, are a physical team. I think every one of their eras where they have been successful in the playoffs, they one of their main things was physicality. Obviously, the bad boy Pistons, but then you have Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace in the early 2000s. That was also a physical team as well. So I easily see the Pistons teams kind of like relecting on that energy in order to carry them through the series. Karl Anthony Towns, he's not that physical of a player. Yeah, he's a big body, but you see him complaining a lot to the fouls with the refs. So again, I could see physicality being a huge turning point in this series. But I want to bring up one name, and I want your thoughts about it. What if PJ Tucker gets minutes in this series? I think he proved that physicality can work against in the minutes that we played him for that Detroit Pistons game in the final game of the regular season. But it was very entertaining for me to see PJ Tucker out there as an aging as an aging NBA player to go up against some of the best players right now. So I don't know. That was just something I thought when I was thinking about the physicality sense.
Well, it's funny enough you bring up PJ Tucker here. It reminds me of a guy that played back in the 90s. I'm sure a lot of crazy basketball fans that are watching know a guy by the name of Mario Elie.
Yep.
Played with the Rockets, won 2 titles there, played with San Antonio, won a title there. And he's a guy who played with a lot of physicality, shot the ball from the outside very well, and I mean, his one thing he was known for was the kiss of death he blew to the Phoenix Suns back in '95. I mean, for a guy for what he's been able to do, he would be that guy on the sideline, just like PJ Tucker, who would tell the guys, you got to stay focus on the things that you want to be looking at to make sure you get it right. So I feel like PJ Tucker can play in that similar scenario. Obviously, he's not the caliber of what Mario Elie was, because that guy was absolutely incredible. He was a guy that kept his locker room intact, I guess you could say. But the one thing I was going to bring up about the Knicks bench, PJ Tucker has a major part of it, I think. Mm-hmm. But there's 3 guys specifically I'm looking at: Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, and Deuce McBride.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Landry Shamet had a great final stretch of games for us and to end the regular season. I think he finished the regular season with 26 points against the Nets.
Yeah.
So that was, of course, great. And he's been having those solid performances year in, year or game in and game out for the Knicks this year. I would expect him to have a bit of a better performance against the Pistons, in all honesty. I think we go to him a lot and keep riding that hot hand. I've seen a lot of other Knicks fans consider starting what's his name, Landry Shamet, for like shooting purposes. I don't see that. I don't think we bench Landry Shamet for Mikal Bridges or Josh Hart. But it's realistically, that's a really good idea. I don't mind the shooting purposes. And Landry Shamet, like I said, he's been getting it done. Deuce McBride, of course, he's going to be our 6th man this series, and I expect him to really flourish in that role this series. He hasn't been too good to my knowledge as far as coming off the benches these last couple of games. But he has been starting for the Knicks starters in these last couple of games as we tried to rest them. And then Cameron Payne, he just has to be that serviceable point guard that we need when Jalen Brunson is out. That is something that we missed so much in the playoffs, where Jalen Brunson was off the floor and the Knicks offense looked completely different compared to when he was on the floor. So if he can try to get that Knicks offense on control when he's on the floor, that would be a great help for the Knicks.
Yeah, and that's going to be the goal, of course, and we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But before we cut to some other playoff matchups with in regards to the Knicks, what we're going to do is we're going to go game by game. We're going to say our prediction and round up who we think is going to win this series. So I'm gonna say game 1, you get New York. New York wins.
I think game 1 is convincingly New York. I don't think we start off on the wrong foot at all, especially in the Garden. So I will agree with you there.
Yeah. Game 2 is I think it's up in the air because the game 2 is always where game 1 you get a chance to see what your opponent's all about.
Yep.
Game 2 you get a chance to really show them what you got and show that you're involved and can stay in this series. So I'm gonna go Detroit game 2.
The past 2 years, to my knowledge, the Knicks have lost game 2 in the first round. I believe we lost game 2. Or sorry, no, we did win game 2, but we were close to losing last year's game 2. Thanks to what's his name?
DiVincenzo.
There we go, Dante DiVincenzo. He saved us that game, so we were very close to losing that. But I know in 2023 we did lose to the Cavs in game 2 at their home. But I'm going to go ahead and say, sorry, who did you say again for game 2?
I said Detroit.
I will go ahead and agree with you on there. I feel like they can somehow take one in New York, and that can really cause some things to shake up for this series. But then it's all about how we do in Detroit, and which we're going to get to that right now.
And now I think that's going to be another split. I think game 3 New York, game 4 is going to be Detroit.
I like that too. I think the Knicks... On the road, we haven't been that good. I know in that Pacers series, we didn't win a single game on the road, and that's really why it was such a competitive series. But the road, to me, it kind of does scare me because Detroit, they're going to have a hungry fan base, and let's not forget to mention that they're trying to hide the ticket sales from us New Yorkers. Like, what's up with that, Detroit? That's just kind of crazy. Go ahead. I know you want to.
I'm gonna let everyone know that that ticket thing does not stop Knicks fans from going to Detroit.
Nope.
We went to Philly. We will go anywhere. We've been to LA. We've been to Canada. We can go anywhere.
And it's not even just in the playoffs. It's been every single regular season game I've seen a strong presence in away games for the New York Knicks and their fan base. So wherever the Knicks goes, their fans will follow most definitely. But I do agree with you there. I think a split will happen in between game 3 and 4. But for my terms of predictions, I think game 5 is going to go to the Knicks back at home. We're going to be back in the Garden. I think you can agree with that as well.
Yeah.
And then game 6, this is where it all happens. The Knicks will probably take it, in my eyes, in Detroit in order to avoid going back home for a game 7. The Knicks take it in 6 for me against the Detroit Pistons.
I'd have to agree 100%. That's the exact way I was going to go with this for sure. And we're hoping Knicks in 6. It was Knicks in 6 last year against Philadelphia. Hopefully that's the same case, but we're going to find out in a few days and how this series starts off and if Kate Cunningham makes a statement at Madison Square Garden or the Knicks win game 1. We'll have to find out what happens and we'll keep in touch with that as well. But coming up after the break, we're going to touch on some more playoff series. We're going to talk about LeBron and the Lakers, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, Jokic and the Nuggets, Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, and more as well. We'll be right back after the break here on Season 3, Episode 17 of Empire State Hoops. We'll be right back.
Hey there, basketball fans. Are you ready to take your love for the game to a whole new level? Well, listen up. We've got something that will make your hoop dreams come true. Introducing Sport Pros USA, the ultimate destination for all your backyard sport court needs. Whether you're a diehard Knicks fan or just looking for some slam dunk fun with your family, Sport Pros USA has got you covered. Picture this, it's a sunny afternoon in New York, and you step out onto your very own custom-built backyard basketball court. The court where legends are born and memories are made. A court where you can unleash your inner baller and shoot hoops like your favorite Knicks players. But it's not just about basketball, it's about family, friends, and fun. Whether you're hosting a game of horse with your buddies or teaching your kids how to dribble and shoot, Sport Pros USA brings the magic of the game right to your doorstep. Our courts are more than just a place to play. They're a place to connect, bond, and create unforgettable moments. And with Sport Pros USA, you can have it all, right in your own backyard. We're not just building courts, we're building dreams. Dreams of buzzer beaters, comebacks, and endless laughter. So why wait? Give us a call at 877-HOOPS-NJ or visit sportprosusa.com today to start designing your very own backyard basketball court. Remember, at Sport Pros USA, we believe that every home deserves a court, and every family deserves the joy of playing together. So don't just watch the game, be a part of it.
And we are back here once again, Season 3, Episode number 17 of Empire State Hoops. It's the NBA playoffs. I'm your host, Adam Rothschild, and alongside me is my co-host, Marquise Frias, once again, joining me here as per usual. And we covered the New York Knicks a lot in the first half of the episode, and now it is time for the rest of the playoffs we're going to cover. So we're going to go over some of the best first-round matchups that we think are interesting enough to actually talk about at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, because the 1-8 matchups are going to be, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
iffy.
These playoff matchups. There's 3 that stand out, and these are the 3 that we're going to talk about. I'm not going to say them now, but obviously you can see the first one on the screen right now. But these playoff matchups, I think the winner of each of them can easily shake up how the entire playoffs go. And convincingly enough, they're all Western Conference teams, or Western Conference matchups. So we'll get into those right now.
And these playoffs could be just as good as last year and even the year before as well,
Yeah.
because we're going to start things off with the Lakers and the Timberwolves. I mean, you got LeBron, you got Luka, you got Anthony Edwards. It's a movie waiting to happen with King James, 40 years old, with the Lakers as the 3 seed going on another playoff run to try and win another title, and Luka trying to get back to the finals after losing last year. And I think in this series, if you're Anthony Edwards, you got to be like, I don't care about these all-stars. I'm going to go in here and show the world what I'm made of. Because last year, he was getting comparisons to Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't even know what to say.
So let's start this off in the standard of the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. Last year, he simply took over 2 playoff series, and that got them there to the conference finals. I agree. The only chance that the Wolves have against beating the Lakers is if Anthony Edwards decides to channel his inner 2024 self. But easily, Luka and LeBron are overwhelmingly, they're my pick almost against any single team in the West except the Thunder. That's the only shaky team. But I got the Lakers in this one in 5. I want to read off an interesting stat that I read this one off I read this one off to Ryan in my previous episode, and I want to read this off to you. The most points per game in elimination games plus true shooting percentage. The leader is LeBron James with 33.5 points in elimination games, and he shoots around 58.5%. The second best player is Luka Doncic with 33.4 points and 56.2% true shooting percentage. That's in NBA history. The Lakers currently have 2 of the best playoff performances we've ever seen in NBA history. I think that easily can encapsulate my entire argument as to why I believe in this Lakers team so much. And not to mention, they just have been playing amazing basketball these last couple of weeks. So I 100% trust the Lakers in this matchup.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's all she wrote right there. Lakers are going to win this series. I mean, yes, I think they will too, but I don't think the Timberwolves go down without a fight because let's also remember a former Knick is on this Timberwolves team who I think for Minnesota is going to be the X factor.
Okay.
Julius Randle.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously know of Julius Randle's playoff struggles, and I think that was a factor as to why we decided to move him this offseason. However, I would say I have seen a bit of a different Julius Randle. I like his consistency now with the Timberwolves more than I do with the Knicks. I've seen a more consistent Julius Randle, but it's all about that playoffs, man. You can have all the consistency you want, but the playoffs is a completely different season, a completely different type of game than the regular season. And you're going to go up against some of the greatest players in the world, especially Luka and LeBron James. So the pressure can probably get to Julius Randle, and I could see another choke job in the playoffs by Julius Randle. However, I think realistically, even if you counted Julius Randle, I think it doesn't matter. I easily take Lakers in 5.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't. I mean, the Lakers have too much depth compared to what Minnesota has.
Yeah.
Even with Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, it's not going to make a difference, really. I mean, the Lakers have what they have, and they've shown why they've been a great team all year. Even after swapping Anthony Davis for Luka, they got insanely better.
No, and I think also J.J. Redick is a basketball mastermind. He's going to know what to do against a player like Anthony Edwards. We've seen him many times against the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic and the Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just don't let, if you're the Lakers, you just cannot let Anthony Edwards take over the series. If you do, you're going to lose it. But I think that's a very big if. So that's why I do have the Lakers in 5 for this one.
And J.J. Redick is also trying to do something that not many coaches have done before, win a championship in your first season as the head coach.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse, I believe, was the last one to do that.
Yeah, I believe so too. So that would be honestly very impressive. Of course, that would be proven J.J. Redick as one of the best first-year coaches of all time. So I'm just super excited for what the Lakers can do in this playoff series. I've probably my second favorite team behind the Knicks. I love what they did with the Luka trade, so I'm a big Lakers fan right now, certainly in the West.
Well, the one thing it points to is who would be the winner. Who the winner of this series would play the winner of the next series we're about to talk about, and this would create probably a sequel to this here. So going straight to it, the Warriors and the Rockets. Golden State beats Memphis in the play-in. They become the 7th seed, and now they're going to play the number 2 seed Houston Rockets, who, just like the Pistons, another surprise team this year with lots of young talent.
Firstly, I want to get this out the way. I think I'm a bit disappointed at this series. I 100% wanted a Lakers versus Warriors first-round playoff series. So now the only way we can get that is if the Warriors beat the Rockets, which that's a very, very tall task for the Warriors in this one. You talked about the Rockets being a surprise of this season. Just like the Pistons, I just didn't see them being this good. And they were around like 4 or 5, around the 4 or 5 seed in the West a month ago. They played amazing last month of basketball. In the remaining month of March and then April. And they got that 2 seed. They definitely earned that 2 seed to me. So they are definitely a contender right now. But this Warriors team, man, you just simply cannot doubt a team that has won 4 of the past 10 championships, and they have another 2 great playoff performers in Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler. We call it Playoff Jimmy for a reason. So this is going to be another classic series. I'm very tossy-turny with this one. I can easily see it going, Rockets a sweep or Rockets in 7, and then same for the Warriors. So this is probably the most anticipated series for me, most definitely.
I think right here, outside of Knicks Pistons, not being biased, of course, but this is probably, outside of Lakers T-Wolves as well, this is probably the best first-round series you're going to see in probably the past 10 years we've had, I think. Yeah. Because of the build-up to it, I really think, we saw Lakers Grizzlies a couple years ago with LeBron and Dylan Brooks going at it. How much of a question is, do you think Jimmy Butler and Dylan Brooks are going to go at it?
I think it's no doubt that we're going to see a couple moments between those two. These guys are 2 of the best competitors that we have right now in the league. None of them want to lose in a game, so you're definitely going to see a fiery spirit from both Dylan Brooks and Jimmy Butler, which I actually really didn't think about this series as the matchup. But of course, the main matchup we're looking at is Stephen Curry versus Amen Thompson. We both know that the last time these 2 teams faced off, Stephen Curry was held to 3 points against Amen Thompson, and that's a very scary stat line if you're a Warriors fan. Now, he's definitely not going to get held to 3 points again this series. I think he's going to score over 10 points easily every game, but it depends on how he scores that 10 points. If it's facilitating, or if he's just running around and shooting those threes, which it's both are a very big possibility. So unless Amen Thompson can channel that inner April 6th playoff inner April 6th performance again against Curry, that's really the only chance I see the Rockets winning. But again, I'm a bit tossy-turny, man. These are both very good teams, very deep teams as well. The Warriors are known for having a very deep rotation. For example, they played 10 players in that playing game against the Grizzlies, and that's not including Jonathan Kuminga. So you're going to see a very deep Warriors team mixed with a very deep Rockets team. I'm super excited for this series again.
And like we said, it's a Warriors team that's completely different from what we've seen in past years. So that's going to be the thing to keep our eyes on. But you replace Klay Thompson and Jimmy Butler, it's basically the same thing all over again, 100%, pretty much.
100%, yeah. And it's not even with the skill-wise, too. It's the competitive-wise. Klay Thompson is a winner in this league. He wants to win, and so is Jimmy Butler. So they expect nothing less but the best from each other. And we're gonna see that in this series as well. So again, man, I'm just super excited. Also, another benefactor for the Warriors, Draymond Green is having an exceptional year on the defensive side. I believe he's top 4 right now in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He's going to have a bit of a hard matchup against Alperen Şengün. I don't know if they throw him in against him or if they sub in one of their bigs, either Quentin Post or Gui Santos, I believe his name is. But I would love to see a Draymond versus Alperen Şengün battle down low. I think that would be very entertaining for this series. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Again, I am so excited for this series.
And what's your prediction?
Man.
I know it's hard. It's a hard choice.
If I have to put a stamp on it right now, I'm going to go ahead and say Rockets in 7. I think the Warriors, as a play-in team, had the Warriors not been in the play-in before this series?
They have been.
I'm sorry. If the Warriors, let's say if this was a 3-6 and not a 2 versus 7, where the Warriors are entering as a play-in team, I think the Warriors take it. But the Rockets, I feel like I trust them more. I go back to that last month of basketball that they played. I really liked what I saw from them, and they really played as a really complete team. So again, I'll take Rockets in 7 for this one.
Now, my thing is, of course, there's one team that has shooting and has a lot of skill, a lot of young talent. The other team has the greatest shooter that God has ever created.
Yeah, I mean,
so Stephen Curry and the Warriors in 7. They go on to play the Lakers.
I can easily see this again going either way for each side. And once again, this is probably the most vital series to the entire first round, especially in the West, as the winner of this can easily shake up that entire conference. So once again, I am super, super excited for this playoff series.
It's going to be a fun one. A young, gritty Rockets team versus a Warriors team that likes to move the ball at a very fast pace down the court. And we're going to talk about one more series, the best 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference. We're going to stick with the West. The Clippers and the Nuggets. This is a surprising one. The reason the Clippers are in this scenario is because they beat the Golden State Warriors on the last day of the regular season that matched themselves up with the Denver Nuggets. So your matchup here, of course, it involves a lot of different pieces. You talk about Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon on the Nuggets side, and Jamal Murray, of course, and the whole drama behind their coach Michael Malone being fired.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, you got head coach Tyronn Lue leading this Clippers team. Their first year in the Intuit Dome in Englewood with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden and company. I mean, Harden had a really good game against Golden State the other day.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big thing leading into this series. The X factor is going to be, how does James Harden perform? Can Kawhi Leonard stay healthy throughout the series? Can Zubac be able to handle what Jokic brings to the table and Aaron Gordon brings to the table? This series can really go either way.
I mean, again, you said it perfectly. The series can go either way. If Nikola Jokic doesn't exist, I simply take Clippers in 4. But the presence of Nikola Jokic alone makes me want to say Clippers in 7. I think the Clippers. The Nuggets, that Michael Malone firing is huge. And with an interim head coach with only 3 games under his belt going into the playoffs and to play a pretty hard team against the Clippers, it's going to be very hard for them to win that series. I think it also depends on what type of Clippers or what type of James Harden we get from the Clippers. Do we get the one that we saw against the Golden State Warriors where he easily took over that overtime period? I believe he scored their first 8 points in that overtime period, which was so impressive. But then we also saw Kawhi Leonard step up and Ivica Zubac. He's a defensive. I think he's the favorite right now as defensive player of the year, probably behind Dyson Daniels. But again, this Clippers team, they've been again playing really good basketball. I love what I saw from Harden last game. If they could just consistently show that again in this series, I think they can take this. But Nikola Jokic will be a problem for the Clippers in this series for sure.
And James Harden specifically has really been slept on a lot this year, I feel like, just because of everything that happened, 5 years ago when he left Houston.
Yeah.
And everyone was just kind of hating on him. He's been put under the radar, I feel like, since he left Philadelphia.
James Harden is one of my favorite players, and I can honestly say that I did sleep on him too. I didn't think he was going to have an all-star year this season, and he ended up being an all-star. I didn't see them leading the Clippers to a playoff seed. He's in the playoffs now with the Clippers. So James Harden has proven to, be that type of player that we all know him to be. However, he's probably infamous for having a lot of playoff chokes. So you go back to 2018 where Chris Paul went down and they were up 3-2 against the Warriors. The Warriors came back to win the last 2 games and win it in 7. Again, we also have the 2023 the 2023 playoff series with the I'm blanking
with the Sixers against Boston?
Sixers in Boston. James Harden had a career meltdown in Game 7, and that's ultimately why he didn't stay in Philadelphia. But he's made a comeback now. I'm liking what I'm seeing from James Harden. If he could just simply not choke this time, he'll be good, and he'll be moving on to the second round.
And if he does move on to the second round, most likely the winner of this plays 4-5 plays the 1. So that's the Thunder. You got to realize that James Harden would be going to Oklahoma City playing against the team that drafted him.
I didn't think about that, and that would be an interesting headline for sure. Again, we all know that the Thunder are most likely going to take that series, but I think that extra motivation definitely does something for the Clippers and definitely does something in Harden where he can easily go off for 40 points in that arena again. I would love to see that matchup once again. But yeah, Clippers in 7 for me.
Yeah, because the Clippers in this series, they're going to have to win at least 2 on the road. They have to, because they start the series in Denver, and that's really going to be the case for this. And James Harden has to play well. Kawhi Leonard's got to play well.
Yeah.
And the Clippers still have a lot of depth they can work with against the Nuggets team that really has been. I feel like you got to wonder in this series, the Clippers have an advantage here. The Nuggets, I feel like they've lost a little bit of their chemistry. I feel like since they've lost Michael Malone on the sideline, I feel like things are a little bit different compared to what it was earlier in the season with them.
Again, this Michael Malone firing is huge for the Nuggets. That was a very big piece. Even though he wasn't playing, he was a very big piece as to the success of the Denver Nuggets. He really knew how to control the offense around Nikola Jokic, because obviously Nikola Jokic is going to get the ball every time he touches the floor, or every time they go down the floor. So they knew how to work around him and really get open on those spots, so that it's either a dump down or he gets a wide open layup. But again, without Michael Malone, this is a very big loss for me, and I don't see an interim head coach getting it done against an experienced team like the Clippers.
Yeah, and with Tyronn Lue, of course, 2016 NBA champion,
sure.
2001 champion with the Lakers as a player.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of experience to bring to the table. Also played with Michael Jordan when he was on the Wizards.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with that. And that's the start we got for the playoffs. So after the Knicks play Game 1 and Game 2, we will have another episode for you next week. We will recap all of Game 1, all of Game 2, and some of the early playoff games as well. And then we'll get into the second half of the Knicks Pistons playoff series and some other playoff series that are going on as well, and talk a lot about all of that. So today's episode of Empire State Hoops has been powered by Sport Pros USA. For more information, visit sportprosusa.com or call 877-HOOPS-NJ to make your dream court a reality today. So, the playoffs start on Saturday. The New York Knicks play at 6 p.m. on ESPN. There are 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday, so make sure to tune in and watch those TVs all day long. So, we will see you next week as the playoffs are finally here. Best time of the year to watch basketball. We'll be back next week for once again here on Empire State Hoops. I'm Adam Rothschild. That's Marquise Frias, and we will see you next week. Adios.
Go Knicks!